Welcome, everybody, to the NLC. We have our very first day of competition ahead of us, and boy, am I excited. This has been a lot of hard work getting to this point. We've joined 2 leagues together, and we've got an incredible roster of talented players and teams ready to show their stuff on the stage. My name is Scoundrel, and I'm joined this week by Trouble, Goldborg, and Veteran, who will all be joining me to analyze the games throughout the day. Guys, and I guess being Veteran, being the weekly guest, I'll start with you. The NLC has been a lot of hard work. I'm really excited about it. And from an analyst point of view, how do you feel about this league coming together?
I mean, I'm really excited to see how the Nordic regions end up kind of taking this opportunity. Every single team here has seen the level of competition around them increase. And there's only one team that hasn't actually made any roster changes out of all the teams that we're seeing here. So there's a lot of very interesting stuff to look forward to as we move ahead. It's a very unique and new league, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
And Trouble coming off the European Masters, obviously. A lot of these teams, you'll have seen them perform at that level before. This is going to be one of the most competitive leagues in Europe, surely.
And it's so exciting because I was here for the Nordics and now I'm back, and the Nordics are in it with a twist. The UK scene has joined, like you mentioned. We saw some of these teams in EU Masters, but everything has been shuffled around. Veteran mentioned as well, only one team hasn't made any roster changes, but everything else seems to be kind of, you know, like one piece from one team went to another, and you kind of want to see how they will pan out to work together as a whole.
And it wouldn't be the Nordics without our very proud Dane in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, Goldborg. What does it feel like now we're being part of the biggest combined league, in Europe?
Honestly, I'm overwhelmed. This is everything that we've ever asked for in a Nordic league. It's always been extremely hard for organizations and players to make a long-term commitment to the Nordic league beforehand. Most of the time, it was just a league for you to play in, only to get scouted to play in a better league. But I'm so overwhelmed and happy to see that we're getting this kind of league, and I can't wait to see how competitive it's going to be.
Well, for those of you that don't know much about the NLC, and our analysts, as you can see, are all very excited to get into our first day of competition. We have a video where we can kind of break down what the NLC is about and what you can expect from the tournament format.
The NLC is the official League of Legends esports competition for the Nordics, UK, and Ireland. Being the most prestigious competition within the region, it is designed to cater specifically to the fans, teams, and breed the stars of tomorrow. The NLC, with its 2 seasons per year, represents the peak of a larger competition ecosystem. There will be 5 national leagues with 8 teams each. The top 2 teams from each national league will compete in the Talia Masters. The top 2 teams of the Talia Masters will then compete in the relegation series against the bottom 2 teams from the NLC to attempt to secure slots in the NLC. The NLC features 12 teams that are divided into 2 divisions. During 7 weeks, they compete in double best-of-1 round-robin games. The top 4 teams of each division will be seeded into a double elimination bracket. The top 2 from the division play going into the upper. The next 3rd and 4th will go into the lower. The 5th place team will be eliminated, but remain in the NLC for next season. The 6th place team in each group will need to compete in the relegation series to keep their slots in the NLC. The playoffs are played in BO3 format. The top 4 teams will take the stage at a live event, competing for their share of the 1 million Swedish krona to be awarded, and to be crowned the NLC champion.
So you can see that a lot of thought and process has gone into the development of a multi-layered league here within the NLC and the leagues that lie below it. There's a lot of, pathway to pro, I guess you would call it, in terms of playing from your bedroom, playing from a university level, all the way up to this biggest combined European regional league in the form of the NLC. So a lot to play for these teams. There's a lot on the line, as well as all those sort of layers below it as well, allowing players to develop their talent and access this league. So I'm really excited about the future of our region and sort of see how that progresses throughout the next few months. Now, guys, let's kind of move on to the teams and what we're going to be seeing today. first of all, you're going to have some recognizable names and some recognizable faces in this particular, I guess, this particular tournament, and specifically veteran. We have the unchanged roster of Fnatic, the previous UKLC champions. There's a lot to be hyped about with this roster, right?
Yeah, and they are the returning champions, but it's not like they were the outstanding champions of the region by far. XL didn't actually drop a single game in their split until their very third game versus Fnatic Rising, and then Fnatic Rising ended up reverse sweeping them. I'm still very excited by lots of the individual talent on the team, and I can understand why they wouldn't look to make changes. I still think Dan is a top 3 jungler in the ERLs in general, and he has a lot of competition coming in with Maxlaw, for example, who's now out of retirement and is going to be playing in this league. So 2 really high-level British junglers facing off against each other. Seaboy's here, Taxa is still here, Aesthetics moved in. So there's a lot of competition for him. And with Magic Phoenix and Xmati, no one's really questioning their skill level. It's just about whether or not they'll be able to maintain that in these high-pressure scenarios. Arguably, they did in the finals of the previous UKLC, but we need to see that that continues as the competition of the entire region has leveled up.
I'm actually glad you mentioned XL there as well, because Trouble, you've been keeping your eye on XL since the European Masters. Big story with them, though. They have a new mid laner.
They do have a new mid laner, and I'm gonna leave this for last. I mean, obviously, it's not really a question mark for a lot of you because you might already know. But what I want to say is that they are the almost returning champions in the NLC. They stumbled apparently in the finals, and that carried through to their first week of EU Masters, where they went 0-3, and then they were able to completely reverse sweep everything, go through the playoffs, and make a pretty astounding performance. And I just want to talk a little bit about their playstyle because I find it unique in the specific meta that we're going to play in right now. You will see that both their jungle and support duos play the more defensive, sort of low-profile early game, which to me it speaks like, okay, the safer and faster we get deadly into the late game, this is our chance to fight, right? But of course, let's not forget that this kind of playstyle will get them through the weaker teams as well as their individual skill, of course. But coming up the likes of some teams like Fnatic, for example, which for me it's one of the top 2 undoubtedly in this tournament, we have to see how this will pan out, or if somebody will have to step up. Talking about stepping up, the big elephant in the room is, of course, Hat-tricks coming in and Special departing from the team. Now, with Hat-tricks being a lot more lane-focused than map-focused, this is where the stepping up comes in. Either Kasing or Taxa are going to have to take that one step towards that aggressive early that we've all been really wanting to see from them.
Yeah, I'm very much interested to see the evolution of the playstyle that XL will need to kind of return to a high form, especially with the change of mid laners. And Gulbug, I'm hyping you up as the Nordic man. I'm hyping you up as the Danish man. I would not be surprised to hear you talk about a Danish team, and I believe Riddle has caught your eye.
Yeah, they have. I mean, I gotta go with my Danish countryman here. I feel like the jungler Maxi, this is just his kind of meta. When I mention champions like Nidalee, Graves, they're just perfect for the game state right now. And to flourish that champion pool, we have that top laner, Doxy. He came from the TCL and is now back with his friends here. He usually likes to go for these high-pressure champions too. We're talking Rumble, we're talking Na, we're talking Jace. And speaking about Jace, they're able to flex it down in the mid lane to familiar name for a lot of the people. Sincox is back here in the NLC now instead, and we all know him back from his LEC days. He's always been extremely flexible, and he's been mentioned as a smart player. He's been getting some flack from the community back when he was in LEC, and some may say he's on the way down this down spiral, but I believe he's back to get back to his peak performance now on this roster too. And speaking about old names too, we gotta go down to that bot lane. We got Ray and Vendelbo as well. Some old names. Ray back in the EU LCS with Vitality 2, made it to EU Masters with this Singularity roster. Didn't have the best... let's just say he didn't have the best run. I feel like that's a nice way of putting it. And Vendelbo too, who's been questionable to some members in the community, talking about how he's not in his prime anymore, how he's not playing as good anymore. He's just a name and that's it. I feel like this whole roster... and by the way, they're all a group of friends too. They're not just some randoms getting to know each other. They have built synergy before the tournament even starts. They're here to prove themselves again, because we got big names. Question is, if they can back that up with some big plays.
Yeah, I know we've kind of focused on 3 specific teams here, but there are plenty of huge names in the NLC of which we will touch on over the course of the broadcasts that we bring you over the coming weeks. Now, let's have a look at today's matches because we are gearing up for our first match of the day. We'll have a look and we'll show you a graphic that shows you the ones that we've got coming this evening. We've got Godsent up against BTXL, a big ticket game to start off the NLC. Then Riddle versus Ents, Nordavind versus Singularity, and finishing up the day with Barrage versus Fnatic Rising. And harking back to UKLC days, that was an interesting matchup because Barrage really put up a good fight in the UKLC over the last split. Now, a veteran, like any matches here that you're particularly excited about, any players from these rosters that you're really excited to see play at this level of competition?
I actually think that if I want to hone in on any sort of particular player today, it would actually be Mumu's. I'm actually really excited to see how he performs. He took a split off where he played in Brazil, but he's actually gotten very, very high up in the ladder in solo queue. And the state of top playing right now in the ERLs is one that's gotten like a lot of question marks. And I think maybe Mumu's could end up being a player in the ERLs that ends up really, really standing out. All of these rosters, though, they've had pretty significant changes except for Fnatic that fundamentally changed their playstyle. So there isn't really a single team here that I'm not specifically curious to see.
Yeah, I think that's really setting it up. I think there's plenty of teams that we are very excited to see throughout the day. Now, I do have to cut to a quick break, guys, because when we're back, we'll be diving into the analysis for our first game of the day, but we will see you very shortly. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the NLC. We are gearing up for our first match of the day, which is going to be BTXL taking on a Godsent. So this is going to be a really big match, especially for BTXL to open up the kind of winning spree that they had in the previous UKLC. There's a lot of expectations on this roster. And actually something that I thought was interesting, I caught it on Twitter earlier today. Taxa put out a tweet, which I'm hopefully going to be able to bring up on screen. You guys can read through it too. He is not known for tweeting that much, but today he tweeted, playing our first game in the NLC against Godsent. I'm excited to start playing with this roster and show the potential of Hatrix and I in the mid 2v2. Now that's definitely raising some questions, Troubling.
Oh, that's what we wanted to see, baby. We talked a lot about the style of Taxa being a little bit more passive in the early game, and special in this team was creating situations from zero with himself. He was not selfish at all. He would give up, slide things in the mid lane, maybe a wave, maybe anything, and then he would try to roam to meet Taxa to go towards that bot side. Now, Hatrix is very used getting, sort of shadowed by his jungler. He likes that little bit more of assistance so he can free himself up and roam together. Seeing Taxa willing to take that step up, we talked about before, and play that early game aggression, free Hatrix and himself on the map, is something that I really, really, really wanted to see. And now it makes me more anxious about what's going to happen to Godsent.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I'm thinking about this team, and especially when I think about like Special's function on the team, I fully agree with you there. Special did do like a lot of stuff on the map himself, but the bigger thing that he was masking for that XL team was the fact that Taxa and Kasing are pretty greedy with their rotations. Kasing is very lane focused himself. Taxa would identify in a very Agurin-esque manner like one specific lane, and generally Kasing's lane to play around, and Special would function within that, and so Special being so selfless allows the rest of the team to be so selfish. The big X factor then would be Sendo, right? Sendo is the guy that didn't necessarily get that much priority from his team, and especially in the current state of the league and with the way that the meta is shifting, we could see a switch in his role. We've seen a lot from the LEC in terms of how some teams are going for hyper carries in the top lane and other teams are going for your typical Ornn Maokai, and it's very likely that how Sendo plays out will indicate how the rest of his team plays out, and especially going up against Godsent, that could be a really massive factor if Sendo thinks he can take on someone aggressive in top one-on-one or not.
Yeah, because I want to take that to Godsent too. Honestly, Godsent was originally a roster trying to qualify through the T-League Esports Series Denmark, and they were so good that Godsent apparently just picked them up and said, don't go through that qualifier, we're taking you straight to the NLC. They are heavily top-side focused. The top laner champion, usually known as a Camille Fiora one-trick pony beforehand, he can play different champions, but that's what he's known for. And that also shows in their way of playing. If you look through their old qualifiers, you'll see that they are heavily shadowing that top side, and not only just to come up and help push out the lane, some may say that they are overshadowing it too. And that can easily be an issue with that team roster, because when they are investing so many resources in the top side, it's extremely easy for the opponent team of BTXL to go down and take some free neutral objectives if they have the information about the enemy jungler. One thing that's good for them though is they picked up their AD carry Hoist, not necessarily known for being the strongest ADC, but he's known for being reliable, and that's why he's fit so good in this puzzle box that is the Godsent roster at the moment. Now they do have some issues in the mid game, and what I mean by that is that identity. They have a way of just tunneling for objectives. So let's say they wanted to come in for the mid lane, they usually don't even play towards the side they're leaning at. They're just forgetting the resources on the map and just heavily committing onto a mid tower when you could be playing for some pressure on the top side and then go back to the mid lane. So it's not that fluent gameplay we see for them. It's very by the book and sometimes too by the book, where they're not adaptable. And sometimes when they are going for that split pushing, they seem to group up and then split push, seem to group up and then split push in ways where you're not usually seeing it. So they are a bit inconsistent about their playstyle too.
Yeah, as you can see, guys, we are into picks and bans. Gilbug, I know you had plenty to talk about, but I just want to kind of take a moment to admire this wonderful pick and ban overlay that we've got going on here. This looks sexy, NLC. I'm loving it. Let's talk about the bans, though. They're coming through. BTXL are about to land their final ban on red side. It's Yuumi, Trundle, and Set for Godsent. It is Varus, no surprises there, super powerful, as we saw in the LEC over the last week. Syndra coming in as a ban, and we're waiting for their final of this ban phase to see what rounds out before that first pick comes out through from Godsent. And it will be Callista being banned by BTXL here to wrap things up. What do we make of these bans here, gents and ladies?
So a lot of junglers are up. Ezreal is up as well. I'd be looking to see if one of those two gets picked up. And the Philios is the one that's being immediately hovered there.
See, I would say that would be maybe an immediate Graves first pick right here, but if they're feeling like they want to give the opportunity for Hoist to shine and get him onto a champion that he feels very comfortable with, where he can carry late game against XL, who also likes to stylistically play late game until now, at least, it's a great pick. And on the other hand, you're pretty much giving for free, let's say, the Graves over to Taxa.
I also didn't think this was expected. You don't expect them suddenly to go for that Aphelios, especially because we mentioned how Hoy is not usually the guy you play around. He's consistent, yes, but he's not the guy you pick a super carry for. So I actually intimidated the Ezreal, but they go with the Aphelios instead.
I actually just want to point out here, I'm guessing this Karma is flexible, but maybe Sendo, and then maybe this is the X factor that Veteran was talking about here.
Yeah, potentially. The big thing that I'm thinking about right now, though, is that the Karma could also be set up to make an Ezreal viable, because Yuumi is being removed from the board. So Aphelios is the only one up that has very specifically powerful combo in the meta right now, the Aphelios Lulu lane. Skarner would definitely be something that fits with a Lulu as well. But I'm also thinking Thresh. If the Karma moves down into bot with Ezreal, Thresh is actually a very good pick into that, and it is up and synergizes very well with the Skarner. I do think the Aphelios first pick makes a lot of sense given everything else that's up. I'm also wondering about Azir. That is a Hat-Trick's mainstay champion. It's a very blindable mid, and maybe they feel like going into seconds. There's the Lulu.
Yeah,
okay,
there's the Lulu.
I'm loving this.
Yep.
Yuumi and Lulu right now have gone straight back into my legal list. And no, it doesn't just have to be annoying champions. It has also to do with overpowered champions. And right now, the utility, the heal, for example, from Yuumi that's coming into the late game, and all the utility and the boost in the attack speed that's coming in from the Lulu, I think it is going to help a lot Aphelios. Even when he mispositions, that mistake can be very easily sort of mended having a Lulu right next to him.
Oh, that's
interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected BTXL to be the ones to ban out Azir. I would have expected them to go for a fourth pick Azir and maybe force their opponents to have to ban out the blind pick Azir at this point. Karma is, though, still upheld as a flex. Maybe you want to go for that, but you also do mask that if you hold off on the Azir and force your opponents to ban it instead. I'm a bit surprised. I'm not surprised about the Ezreal being picked up, especially given that when Lulu was locked in, you can assume that's going bot lane and you're not at risk of a Thresh versus Karma anymore. So I think really strong power pick from both sides, but that Azir ban, that's very strange to me.
Yeah, we talked about this Veteran before this particular game, and we're like, we just have to see in the picks and bans, are they gonna tend to go for these sort of late game champions? Are they gonna play a little bit more of their passive early game? And here I'm seeing Ezreal, I'm seeing Karma, and I'm seeing Graves. All it screams to me is let Taxa farm, get Pryor in a lane with Karma, and allow him to roam around, not necessarily for the ganks or the kills, but for the pressure and for keeping that bot lane safe. And what's more safe can you have than an Ezreal in the bot lane?
I honestly love that they're banning Fiora, just giving them that respect straight off the bat, knowing that he might not have had that much competitive experience, but we don't want to deal with someone who's a one-trick just going without Fiora, and they do go with the Wukong instead. So no way to outplay that with a Fiora riposte instead. Get that out of there.
counterpick being given 2 hat tricks as well with this just explicitly. They don't want to play anything into Azir. Azir is just a very, very comfortable blind right now. I guess this might be a pecking order that we see for the rest of it. And we did talk about hat tricks being a bit more of a selfish player maybe than Special was. So putting him into last rotation makes a lot of sense here. And there's the Camille. I'm sure you have a lot to say about that, Goldberg.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's extremely interesting that we know that Godsent is a top side focused team. So why not just say, okay, we know by default that hat tricks is probably better than Migma. So why don't we just give them that as the blind pick and go for the counter pick towards the top side? So their biggest threat is out of the picture. Now they do get the Camille instead, which he has been known for, and that cannot be underestimated. And they have banned the Renekton as well, which was kind of predictable, seeing as Camille goes not too well into that Renekton matchup. So now it's up to who are they going to pick into this Orianna instead. Syndra is off the table, hovering Cillian at the moment.
No, that's a good thing, isn't it? It's a Galio.
Okay, I see.
There we go. This is the 2 compositions locked in then. Just off the brief start here, what do you guys make of these compositions? Veteran, what do you think the win conditions are here? In fact, actually, I know Troublelink, I know you're itching to say something very briefly. So what do you think about these compositions getting locked in?
Oh my god, I'm dying. We saw the tweet of Toxa being like, I just want to play around, hat tricks, play that 2v2. And there's like a Galio in the mid lane. Can you just stop? Give us all these assassins that we saw, in EU Masters. Unlock yourself, like be this nuisance in the backline. I get it that with Lulu, it's not that easy, but man, did I want to see blood being spilled.
I don't know. Interesting. Go Veteran. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds, Veteran. Tell me what you think.
Okay, I think BTXL are trying to play early dies out with this composition, but we do need to see Tax and Hatrix moving together if they want to do that. Otherwise, I think Godsent has everything that they want. They're looking to play very heavily towards top side here, and they have very strong scaling options going later on into the game. I actually feel pretty confident if I was them, especially given how they play.
Oh, maybe looking like it's a comfortable Godsent here coming out of the draft phase from our analysts. Now, I have to pass it over to our casters for the day because we are gearing up for this first match. Going to hand it over to Hiprain and Orcs.
Thank you very much, Scoundrel, and hello and welcome to day number 1 of the Northern League Championship. My name is Jake Hiprain Matthews, and I'm joined by Dan Orcs Harrison as we're kicking off with Godsent taking on BTXL. Orcs, how excited are you right now? I am brimming with excitement.
I'm so hyped. I mean, we've had obviously a lot of time with the UK. We were with the Nordics last split, and now we've got them combined. 12-team league, and we have some insane rosters coming through. So I'm just excited to get into things.
Yeah, the teams are locked and loaded onto the wrist, so we should be getting into game nice and quick. I'm so excited by both of these comps. Obviously, the analysts hit a lot on this, but I want to get your opinions, Orcs. What are you feeling about these comps? Obviously, Veteran was hitting on the BTXL, looking to kind of go for a big dive combination here. What do you think is the game plan for the side of Godsend?
Well, I think for Godsent, essentially, you want to get those scaling elements through the later stages. You have the playmaking potential off the Skarner once you hit the level 6 point, but I'm really looking towards what is Hoyes going to be able to do in the later stages. Is Champion going to be one of these side lane threats? Because they could very easily be shut down. And I think the interesting takeaway is there was a lot of discussion about the changes to XL with hat-tricks on the roster, and we're talking about how Special typically finds his own priority mid and rotates. If you're trying to give a champion to bridge that gap who can find their own priority and then look to rotate, Galio is definitely that champion. You have the ultimate that can easily facilitate roams, and you have the pushing power that can match an Orianna.
They got a nice 2v2 as well. If Taxa comes in, you got the big taunt from Hatrix. Obviously, the cleanse on the Orianna does make it a little bit easier for Migma to be able to play safe in this lane, especially with the fact that he's running the phase rush. Pretty standard stuff for Oriannas. I'm curious to see whether or not we see this Tear of the Goddess or this Ludens build for the Ori. We've seen a lot of everything's up in the air. A lot of people saying they prefer the Tear build because obviously it gives you more AP later, and it obviously gives you massive amounts of shielding. Some people like the earlier spike of the Ludens. We'll have to see where the attention is going to go.
We see a bit of the GLP as well, especially syncing up with Phase Rush. It gives you an easy way to activate that because you can QW, drop the GLP, and it just basically creates a massive sort of movement speed difference. You slow them down, you speed yourself up, and it makes you pretty gives you a lot of mobility for those team fights. And looking towards the bot lane, we can see this is the expected outcome. This is why they went for that Karma Ezreal. They will consistently have priority in this situation. And sure, in the later stages, this Aphelios comes online, but you do have to get through that laning phase, and they're already getting poked out a fair bit.
Yeah, pretty solid poke there to start us off. Mid lane, like I said, Gallo's pretty good at clearing out these waves and shoving, especially with that colossal smash. Combined up with the Winds of War just gives him so much just wave clear available, especially onto those backline minions. He's going to go for a cheeky invade. Has been spotted out on a ward. So they do know what Hatrix is up to. However, he's looking to see if he can make something go onto Hoys here. They're hanging about because Think actually will get the tether off. They're going to jump forward here. In goes the channel for the taunt. Underneath the tower they go. Hoys is ignited and first blood is given over to Deadly.
Does get a trade back though. Couple too many tower hits there for Hatrix, but we were talking about, will Hatrix fill in this role that XL have lost, the roaming mid laner, and as early as level 2 he is doing that. Goes down, finds roam. Yes, it is unsuccessful in the fact that they traded 1-for-1, but look at this wave now being denied away from Hoys.
That in terms of XP, but they can't.
You're putting this Aphelios further behind, you're delaying those power spikes he's working towards.
Yeah, we did have a little replay as well, just to see all of the action that was breaking out on that dive. Hatrix did unfortunately trade out and die there, but Champion actually going on to Sendo. He's going to trade up there for the moment. Sendo has to be a little careful. He's just going to go for a base. The wave looks like it's just about going to crash. No, the back ones actually don't fully reset, so we'll see what Champion does with that.
Taxa able to take that skull just as Seaboy was actually moving up to potentially contest. I think the priority mid and top really didn't lend Seaboy to a real fight there. And now you can see Hatrix, Taxa, and Kasing all grouping up aggressively here. They're going to secure that Scuttle Crab fairly easily, but also establish some vision. And if you look at where they're placing this vision, this is to set up another roam from Hatrix. They've got these wards, the control ward covering that entrance point in the red side jungle, and now they're clearing out this control ward, and it creates a very free path for Hatrix to leave the lane and walk down without being sort of detected by the enemy side. There's tons of vision there actually, and it clearly shows the plan and the intentions of XL for this early game. Especially if you look at where Hoys and Pedersen are now, they have to extend so much just to contest this wave. Really puts them in a difficult spot.
Who would have thought BTXL playing around Deadly? Surprise, surprise. It's pretty much their win condition for most games they played, if not every game they played last season back in the UKLC. As things have changed up in the league and we're on to the NLC now. Still seems to be the game plan for the side of BTXL. Pretty solid start so far. Taxa going for an invade into Seaboy, level 4, so he's actually going to win this fight out. End of the line does a fair amount of damage to Seaboy and does send him packing. Taxa may just steal away this camp. Smite goes down by Seaboy as he does secure that. As Deadly was trading out with Hoys in the bot lane. Hoys is going to get chumped and now Deadly. So Taxa has to dash away from Seaboy. He's trying to contest this ward. I think he's just going to have to give it up.
Yeah, I don't think you can overpush for that one, but critically, he has forced Seaboy deeper into his jungle. He's trying to maintain that vision line they established earlier and replace the vision that got removed, and he's just harassing Seaboy as much as possible. Hatrix moving down as well here. They forced him completely out of his own jungle.
Yeah, Steelgirl can't do anything. Hatrix is coming down. Look how low Hoys is. They're using the teleport. This is a 5-man dive bot lane. Kasing snipes out Hoys to start the fight. Pedersen gets knocked off and just jumps onto Deadly. Secures the second one. It's a 2 for none for BTXL.
Should be able to get a couple of plates here on the back of this on top of that. TP from Sendo just secures the play pretty firmly, and if you look at that wave top lane, he's not really missing too much in that situation. They take Champion some time to push in. They could use this pressure to translate into the dragon, but instead they're going to go for the tempo. They're going to go for the reset after those plates are taken down. They don't want to overstay and end up getting punished.
Solid use there. Hatrix actually now has his own teleport. Running that unsealed spellbook means that he's able to run around with that summoner spell. And the summoner spell disadvantage is basically negated now because of that as well. So if Champion decides to make a play bot lane, Hatrix now with the grand entrance, heroic entrance. Grand entrance is Rakan.
So something we're seeing here is if you watch, Kasing and Taxa are moving up to the top side of the map, setting up potentially for that Herald that is going to be on the cards in just over a minute. Wanting to establish that vision a little bit earlier. Kasing does have a tendency to just roam to the top side, setting up for that play, and often leaving Deadly on his own. Now, Deadly being on Ezreal means it's not too much of a concern. He can just farm pretty safely from a distance. But it does leave him alone for a little bit of time. But you can just see how scared Pedersen and Hoyes are. They're so unwilling to step up, especially as now Hatrix has that ultimate available on the Galio. If he wants to join an encounter, he can extremely easily.
Can indeed. Sendo still having a little bit of a rough time versus Champen, but he's okay for the moment. The wave held here in the middle of the lane. It looks like Champen's not really risking going for a fight or anything like that. Doesn't have his jungler. This is a very top lane neutral game in the sense that no one's playing around top lane. Champen obviously wants to get the farm onto him, but it's all about bot lane early here for BTXL.
And I think the critical thing is it's been BTXL deciding that Godsent haven't really made plays in any areas as of yet. We are looking towards C-Boy hitting that level 6 when he can really come online and start to make an impact with the ult. Right now, though, it's just Champion holding his own in lane, as is Mikma. And like you said, the bot lane being punished for Godsent. So hopefully now that C-Boy has got that Impale at level 6, we can start to see Godsent make some proactive plays. But for now, XL's just going to start up that dragon. They have the priority, they have the control. No reason not to.
They're going to get their hands on to this Infernal Drake. Deadly just going to zone away Godsent from anywhere near this river and protects that ward for himself. Deadly even shifting aggressively there. Did obviously have Kasing at his back, so he was pretty comfortable. He's got that Manamune finished up in the True Shot Barrage. He's gonna... That was more damage than I expected.
I think it was more damage than Pedersen expected as well. Died with the heal up on top of that, so a bit of a huge mistake there.
See, this is actually... He had his Conqueror stacked. The extra AD.
Yeah, could well be a factor there. And I think something to take away here is that C-Boy's going for a really greedy play in this situation, trying to sneak the Herald before Deadly and Kasing can rotate, but...
Sendo's pretending to be a clone. He's going to jump in, gets himself the Cyclone. Here comes the heroic entrance. Mikma's sent away. Sendo goes for the second channel, and that Rift Herald is running a little bit low. That's going to be a big taunt by Hatrix onto 3 members. The collateral damage means C-Boy falls down. Champion is out of there with a hook shot. That's an easy Rift Herald for BTXL. Sendo playing a really, really good game of bluff there versus the side of Godsent.
I just felt like Godsent wanted to go for that play where they sneak away the Herald before the enemy team gets there, and the end result was they didn't have the proper preparation. They weren't ready for a fight. C-Boy didn't even use his ultimate before he went down on that situation, and they kind of just flopped over. But it's a good response from BTXL. They get advantages on the bot side, but they're not willing to trade across the map. They're ahead right now, so they'll take everything they can.
Mikma's going to make his way back to the lane. Try and catch up on this wave. It's actually equal in CS to Hatrix, but Hatrix obviously doing pretty good considering the fact how much he's been not being mid lane to actually equal in CS to an Orianna.
Equal in CS when the enemy mid lane is roaming quite heavily isn't really a great sort of situation to be in. Ultimately, the Orianna does scale well, but we're already seeing a 3,000 gold lead from BTXL, and a lot of that is specifically going to be on Deadly. They often set him up to be the carry. He's 3-0-1, he's 30 CS up on this Ezreal. And remember that typically for the Aphelios, you're going for those more expensive items, the Infinity Edge, and then you're picking up your Runans, and you're waiting for those 3-item spikes to become really relevant, going for that Death Stance so you become hard to kill, whereas Deadly only needs to finish off his Triforce, and he is going to be super powerful.
Got the Sheen, got the Manamune. He's actually got a lot of just early damage here. Cheap spikes for him. Should just be able to find himself first turret blood. Godsend think better of it. They don't want to contest. They're just going to leave it. They're going to kill as many minions as possible on the tower as well before going in. As Mikma has to be careful if Taxa gets caught out by the taunt. Everything is layered onto him, and Taxa secures himself an easy kill. Mikma kind of caught sleeping a little bit there.
Yeah, and you can see that the roam came down from Hatrix and Taxa to secure that tower. That's why Hoyes and Pedersen have to back away. But now Mikma gets caught when they rotate back up. They're going to throw down the Herald, and I'm sure you want to be there, C-Boy. It's 1v4. I think you just have to give this mid lane tower up. He's
threatening it. That's a lot of damage coming out from Hatrix as they do get the damage off onto the turret. They don't take it out, however. Rift Herald will fall. C-Boy gave up most of his health bar to do that, though.
Yeah, they can just
continue. And I feel
to
they'll just take it with this wave.
C-Boy's so low now. He can't step up in this situation. The tower's just going to be gone, and already a really solid early game from XL at this point. We're looking at a 6,000 gold lead just coming up in 12 minutes, and kind of feel bad for Champion in this situation. He's just been having a sort of 1v1 scenario against Sendo, and sure, the Camille is going to be relevant later, but ult used there by Sendo.
Yeah, Sendo actually goes in for another ult there as well. Just chunks out Champen. Little low on mana, so maybe just wanted to reset the wave, or maybe he wants to set Taxa up for a dive. They're going to collapse in onto him, gets the stun off into the blind, but Taxa now has the collateral damage his safety. Champen, turn that around to stay alive.
Yeah, a little bit overzealous going for that one. Too much HP on Champion, and he did land the stun on attacks there, so they will just back away, but not very much lost. But C-Boy might be looking now.
Yeah, Sendo, he's actually left alone, does have to flash away. Pretends to be a clone, and that is not the bluff this time. Champion will take him down. That's all we tried. Wasn't enough, though.
But finally seeing a proactive play come out of Godsent, them getting something, and as much as it isn't much, they're getting a kill onto Champion, and that may be the win condition for this game. This side lane threat off the Camille. Also going to look for a plate here, but this might end up being a little bit risky. You can see already that Deadly and Kasing are roaming up, and I think they think better of the situation. They'll just take the one plate and back off.
We're pretty happy with that plate. Now, let's take a stock of where we are as far as the items and the gold is. Got ourselves a 5,000 gold lead over the BTXL to start this off. And the Proto Belt is finished up onto Hatrix on his Galio, while Mikman actually just sitting on the components of, actually not even all of the components. He's literally just got a Lost Chapter and an extra Amp Tome. So a ways off either the...
He's gone the GLP if he's picked up the extra Amp Tome. Normally quite common when you go the phase rush on the Orianna. See Tax is starting up the Dragon in this situation, and he's already finished his Warriors. He's got a Phage as well, and C-Boy is sitting on a lot of gold, but his Graves is feeling very relevant right now, and this is one of the S-tier champions currently on this patch, and he is just putting out so much damage in these early skirmishes, and also pretty hard to punish, especially big factors. It's not just the extra gold on these carries like Deadly and Taxa, but you're also being enabled by your teammates. You have Kasing with a shielding. Should you go over aggressive, you have the hero's entrance from Hatrix to sort of assist you in that scenario, which now does also give a shield against magic damage.
Yeah, and I mean, the key one for me I wanted to highlight on the items was Deadly. He's got the Stinger, he's got the Sheen, he's got the Manamune finished up, and it's stacking up. While Hoy's, he's sitting on a BF sword, he's got a Cole, which is only 9 minions away from completing, but even so, he's so far behind Deadly right now.
Over
the
2,000.
CS deficit is massive as it is, on top of the fact that Deadly's got 3-0-1 on the scores as well. He's feeling very, very comfortable right now.
And that's the thing, is that Godsent are waiting for these later spikes in terms of how much gold these champions need to hit the sort of main power spikes they're playing around. But XL are so far ahead right now, 6,000. Looking for a fight.
C-Boy is going to get slowed down. They're looking for the taunt. They're going to be able to find it. Deadly, he's on a rampage. That's his 4th kill as Champion has to hook shot away to safety. Double bust onto Deadly makes him extra scary now on this Ezreal. Well, maybe looking for something, but actually Hatrix just flashes into his face. The cleanse get used. True Shot Barrage is there. Wildgrowth comes down as they do get themselves an ultimate onto Hatrix. The GLP for the slow. In goes the Moonlight Vigil from Hoyt. Trying to put some damage into Tax. There's a lot of shutdown available, but he is blinded as Deadly is looking to run them through. Finds the snipe onto the backline. Kasing looks for the tether. Mikma's ignited, but Mikma should just about live. Here comes Champion though. He's looking to mop up the fight. Finds himself one. Goes in with a Hextech ultimation. Taxa jumps over the wall. In comes Stendo with a Cyclone as Champion gets another. Deadly will secure the kill to shut him down. Hoyes is still alive. The Graviton there is not going to be off. Sendo is out of there. A good turnaround by Godsent.
And actually a favorable fight for the side of Godsent. Ends up being a 2-for-3 overall. So by all means, that's a good fight for them. Didn't get the shutdown from Deadly, but did get one from Taxa. It was just XL being overzealous in that situation. Trying to force too hard. Too many tower hits taken, and then not respecting the flank from the Camille. So still got a significant gold lead, but XL showing maybe a bit of overconfidence in this situation.
Well, everybody's reset. They've gone back to base, spent their gold. Dragon's not up for another 2 minutes. It is going to be a Cloud Soul.
Just in honesty, pretty good news for this side of Godsent. If you are going to give away a soul, Cloud is often the one you don't mind as much, especially compared to something like Ocean or even the Infernal, but hopefully they would be looking to sort of deny that from going into the hands of XL. For now though, XL have got their sights set on that second Herald. They've already taken 3 towers down. All the other ones are now actually looking to punish Hatrix here.
Yeah, Hatrix looks to clear out the wave, does get caught out by the shockwave. Teleports coming in and gets himself a knock-up, looks for the taunt, but he's not going to find it in time. Mikma finding himself a kill. The True Shot Barrage does clip a dozen, but not really able to get anything else there. Good pick there by Godsent, just kind of reading the map well, recognizing where BTXL were. Find himself a punish, these little picks here and there. Every little helps if they want to close the gold deficit.
Yeah, again, just another good play. Once more, using the Skarner ultimate, the Impale, just to find a pick on someone isolated in the side lane. And this time it's hat-tricks. Still a massive advantage for Excel, but you need to start clawing back these small little amounts of gold, trying to get some presence on the map. Another factor to take into account is we will start seeing the QSS tax being paid from the likes of BTXL. Already, taxes have to spend 1,300 gold on a QSS, and we may well see other members. Deadly has picked up that null magic already, and that can kind of close the gap between teams to an extent if one team has to shell out for this item just to sort of withstand the pressure from C-Boy.
Yeah, absolutely. You are seeing, obviously, though, with the Trinity Force finished up the QSS and the Mirror Mana, well, Hoyes is literally sitting on an Infinity Edge and an extra cloak. So he is very, very far behind Deadly. So that QSS tax, it negates, what, 1,300 gold from Deadly, but he's still very much ahead in that power curve, so it's not a massive loss to him. We expect to see probably something like a Blade the Ring King or a Death Dance get picked up as his third item here.
Yeah,
I feel like he decides to go for.
Death Dance obviously gives you a lot of sort of survivability, makes you very hard to target as the Ezreal, even without the Iceborne Gauntlet in tandem. Overall, though, right now, I feel like this is where XL are really hitting their stride. Galio is still very relevant. You've got the core items on Ezreal that make him hugely powerful. I think right now it's kind of XL just deciding what they want on the map, and Godsent have to respect it.
Oh, Deadly looks to just send C-Boy back in with that QSS finish. He is so comfortable. Just a 1v4 of everyone away from that pit. There was no way anyone was getting close enough. And that's going to be the third dragon picked up by BTXL. The one away from that Cloud Soul. Baron Nashor still not up for a minute. So it's probably just back to a little bit of farming here for the side of BTXL. 5.5 gold up at this 19-minute mark.
And that's where the question comes in for Godsent is, when are you going to start saying no to XL? When are you going to start contesting these neutral objectives? Maybe it's at the Baron. If they try and start it up, you go for a fight, see if you can take it. But there is the engage potential, especially off a Wukong flank. And you have to ask yourself, are you willing to give up this Cloud Soul? The gold deficit is still extremely high for the side of Godsent. And like you said, Hoy's nowhere near his core items that he wants to have finished before they're looking for these team fights. Deadly's just willing to step up so aggressively because he knows there's nothing they can really do. If they throw down the Impale, he's just going to QSS it, and BTXL is going to put some pressure down on this tier 2 top. The Herald can take it down very easily.
Godsent may not be able to take this out before the charge comes down either. The blind goes out by Tax, and they do just about kill the Herald in time, but a massive wave is starting to collapse up forward here. Sender has to be careful. You get caught by the shockwave. Is the clone, luckily for him. Champion in the bot lane, though, just going to try and push it away. Triforce finished up. Not sure what that was, Deadly.
I'm not sure you're aiming for there. You see Champion should be able to get this tier 2 tower, though. And it's making good use of the Camille. The Camille is pretty strong right now with 3 kills in the pocket. He can apply that pressure in the side lane. BTXL are wanting Sendo to be grouped with them. He is their engage. They want him to find a flank or a good angle, pop that ultimate and have hat-tricks follow up. So they keep bringing him to these scenarios where they want him to be looking for these. And it just means that Champion's able to find some pressure on the other side of the map. They do find them fishing, but the recall's going to come in from Champion, and right now it's just good play from Godsent to try and find those small little advantages in a map that overwhelmingly is in favor of XL.
Well, 20 minutes on the clock. The Baron has now spawned up. XL, the double lady carry, will be able to cut through it fairly quickly, but they don't really have a true tank, so that's something they do have to be a little careful of. Sendo might be looking for a little something here. It's going to play the chicken again. They go in with the ultimate. The Cyclone catches up for the double knockup. They do have another Cyclone to use, and that is the end of Champion. He flashes away, but Sendo will chase him down. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Taxa is chasing C-Boy out of that jungle. The Blast Cone will be popped by Taxa, and they're just going to get out scot-free.
Godsent were able to make plays around Champion when they leave him alone, they draw XL away. When they start moving to him, it just attracts the attention from the side of BTXL, and they're willing to fight him. Now C-Boy looking for Xing.
Yeah, he's going to flash away, but actually, They may just look to turn this around. That's the Moonlight Vigil into a two-man shockwave. Sendo doesn't have that Cyclone, but Deadly just shifting forward into the face of Godsent. Gets a massive chunk of damage onto Hoist and snipes him out for the double kill. BTXL just turned that fight so clean.
5 members against 2. Do you see the Orianna respawn, but they're going to head towards the Baron? Ult coming in. Not quite close enough to hit anyone. But they're going to start this up, and C-Boy down means they have very little chance to contest this one.
22 minutes on the clock, and they are just going to start this up. Sendo, looks like it's his job to tank out onto the Baron Nashor. Double AD carry means this Baron will just melt. The big purple worm looks a little bit like a big gummy worm right now. Baron buff on to the backs of XL with a 10,000 gold lead, with a 7-0-2 Ezreal.
And we can look at where that sort of matches up individually.
At mid game has well and truly spiked.
And we can look at where that sort of matches up individually. 4,000 is the goal difference between these two AD carries. Deadly's just so strong right now, and you saw in that fight, he landed the Essence Flux, followed up with the Mystic Shot, and it did a good 50-60% of Poise's HP. He's just gone back to base and spent a ton of gold. He's going to be even stronger now, and they're just going to start pushing up mid. They are moving Sendo into the side lane. It looks like they're going to have Hatrix float in between, but Deadly, he's just comfortable maintaining pressure by himself. Half HP's Pedersen with that two-shot barrage. Got it in the end. And then also having the QSS just means he doesn't fear anyone on the side of Godsent.
That was like 80 Ezreal damage on an ultimate. That was insane. I mean, you're just seeing the gold lead here. Actually, I'd love to get our observer just to quickly toggle the gold lead. Yeah, a massive amount of that 10k gold lead is just exclusively on Deadly at the moment over Hoist.
Now I've got the Death Stance as well, so even harder to take down. And on top of that, more AD just fueling his abilities. Godsent are trying to contest his vision around this bush, but isn't really too much concern for BTXL. They're trying to stack the wave in the bot lane, sync them up at the same time. You can see Deadly walking in the mid wave, and we have Sendo walking in the bot wave. Godsent have to decide where they're going to try and defend.
C-Boy tried to defend from within that tower. The collateral damage comes from downtown. Taxus secures the kill. Sendo has to be careful from Champion, but that will be the end of the mid lane tier 3. Taxa now looking for something onto C-Boy. Remember, he also has a QSS, so he feels pretty comfortable to walk up to the Skarner. That is going to be the end of that inhibitor in the mid lane. End of the bot lane inhibitor. BTXL, they may just look to close the game here. The shield onto Deadly means he can tank the wave for a moment. They've still got Baron to work with. And these turrets are being crushed. It's really do or die for Godsent at the moment as they got one turret left. And Deadly is just going in for the flank the long way around. Gets caught out for the moment as they do look for the shutdown. They're unable to find him. That Death Stance just makes it too hard to deal with as Champion falls. Pedersen has to wild growth himself. Deadly finds himself a double kill. The two-shot barrage not going to be able to kill. They do get a shockwave off onto Kasing, but Kasing is healthy enough. Hatrix goes onto the Nexus as it falls at 25 minutes. BTXL crushed Godsent.
A one-sided game, and the expectation was XL were coming in as the strongest side, but they set the pace completely throughout that one, and it felt like there wasn't really much opposition from Godsent. There were moments where they tried it. There was a moment where XL overstepped, but the pace was XL's. They started with that aggressive early plays around the bot side, and we saw Hatrix on this Galio, the new addition, really playing for the team.
Yeah, it's hard because obviously it was such a one-sided loss. There was a lot that went wrong for Godsent, but let's try and just kind of pull it back a little bit. What do you think that needed to be different there? Was it a core just they didn't match the roams? Obviously, Hatrix went for a level 2 roam on Galio, so it's kind of hard to kind of go for that match. But where do you think the issues lied? Was it in champ select? Was it in just how they played out that game? What was your core issue with that?
I think you need a bit more proactivity in the early game. I think if you're going to play around Champion, then you need to start setting him up in the top lane. He was trading well against Sendo, but he didn't get the resources really to take over the matchup. And on top of that, you have to be aware of this game plan from XL. They pick Galio mid. The way XL plays, you know they're going to be very bot-centric, so you have to be aware of that. You should be trying to evade these sort of plays going towards the bot side, be in position to shadow your bot lane in the case of C-Boy, or for example, Mikma just getting caught out when they rotate back. It felt like XL had a good game plan, good execution, but Godsent just kind of gave them too much space and ended up falling too far behind.
For the side of XL, you know, they had a crushing season last season, but they did fall short at the end to Fnatic Rising. But for them, it's about getting back on that horse and getting yourself the win and, you know, maybe looking to clean sweep their way through the season. We'll have to find out. But with that, BTXL do get the first win of the Northern League champion. We're going to cut to a quick break, so we'll be back for game 2. See you in a second.
The music takes me places that I never dreamed that I would go, and how it touches me, touches me, touches me. The music takes me places that I never dreamed that I would go, and how it touches me, touches me.
Welcome back to the NLC. I'm Scoundrel, joined by our analyst desk once more. And we have a little bit of analysis. And when I say a little bit, I mean a genuine little bit. That was a very, very clean game from XL. And I mean, I don't even know where to start. I guess the easiest thing is Veteran is that 2v2.
Yeah, I mean, Taxa was talking about the wrong 2v2 in his tweet. Apparently, he should have been referring to the bot lane. The level 1 bounce, the pretty much uncontested level 1 bounce back that they got there gave massive dividends to the team. We're used to seeing Gallios do a third wave bounce from mid into an immediate roam. We saw Caps doing that, for example, in the LEC very recently. And Hatrix had a perfectly open lane for him on bot. It wasn't a dive, it was a straight up gank set up by really big advantages accrued in the level 1 from the 2v2. And they kept snowballing, they kept punishing them. I don't think we'll see a bigger bot lane difference for the rest of the day. I'd be very surprised, and they can be very proud of how they played around that.
Yeah, and talking about Hatrix and his selfish playstyle by wanting to play for his lane, he did anything but that. He played for that bot lane. They were funneling all of their money onto Deadly. And I just want to say how genius I find the Galio pick, because I was sort of like, come on, man, give me one of these assassins you showed us in EU Masters. I want to see something bloody. Oh, did he give us bloody with this Galio? We talked about champion and his 2 strong champions, which were Fiora and Camille. Banned Fiora, left Camille open, and you have to respect that. The Galio lock-in, I was muted, but I was talking about Hatrix and how insane that Galio lock-in was. I extremely enjoyed it because I know it was a little bit iffy at the start of the picks and bans, but it was to shadow champion wherever he was going with that Camille. You put down the cage to keep someone locked inside. Well, the Galio is just gonna fall onto your head if you want to stay into your own ult. So not only was he selfless and evolving from his previous playstyle, but he was also funneling all that gold down the bot lane while being super useful with that semi-global as well.
Yeah, and obviously Goldbug, the other side of the coin, it wasn't so good for Godsent.
I mean, come on. Honestly, I feel like it wasn't too bad for Godsent, because imagine for 1 minute how blessed Godsent players are right now. The fact that they're allowed to play in the same game as the myth, the legend, Christian Taxa Jensen. I mean, all hail our Lord and Savior Taxa.
It's fine, they get demolished so long as it's a Dane that demolishes them. That's the lesson to take away here, you know?
I mean, if one guy is going to demolish the quote-unquote Danish roster with Godsent, it's got to be another Dane, right? But honestly, they got steamrolled from the get-go. As we talked about in the pre-game, they're not a team that had much competitive experience. They were only playing the Danish qualifiers in TD Esport League, and then they got swapped up to the NLC and played against arguably the best team in their group, or the best team in their group for sure, if you ask me. So I feel like it was a rough start for them, but I feel like it's better getting demolished in the first game, just learning for all the mistakes that happened. You can narrow it down to say that the individual skill was better on the other team, but just the fact that they got punished for that level 3, third wave crash, that can just be used in another game. You can learn from this game too. So even though you don't have the individual skill and prowess to back it up yet, you still have some macro knowledge to take away from these games, and that's fine for Godsent so far. I didn't expect them to win this game either.
Yeah, I think realistically the whole game can be summed up almost through bot difference there, especially from the very first minutes. Now, I actually have a guest from XL ready to interview, and I have the new mid laner Hatrix standing by. I'm actually really happy to be chatting to Hatrix because Hatrix, you're one of the few players that I have met on several times on a real life basis, and I feel like we go quite a way back now, and it's really cool to see you now playing in the league that I've sort of had close to my home. You know, the UKLC and the NLC being something that I've been a part of for so many years. But if you heard the analyst before we got into this game, we were talking about your playstyle on Mad versus the playstyle that you have now, and we kind of talked about, is Hatrix going to be more lane focused like he was in the SLO? Is he going to be more playing for lane rather than anything else? And obviously from the get-go, we immediately saw you unlock yourself and roam and facilitate Deadly and Kasing in that bot lane. Was that an active change that you had to do, or was it just the team itself that allowed you to do that?
It was not something I was forced to do or anything. I think the meta shifted to be a bit more bot-centric, you know, with Aphelios, Ezreal being very strong, and champions like Orianna, Galio, even TF to some extent being more meta. So I think it's not like I feel like I have to change my playstyle. It just kind of feels natural to do this kind of plays with the tools that we have. Obviously, like, our plan was really clear. Like, I play the Galio and I make sure my silence get ahead. That's my job. That's all I want to do, and that's all I need to do. So that's my sole focus. While, for example, a different draft, you know, I can still play all the LeBlancs and the Akalis and stuff, but the meta is just more focused like this. So it's just what we go for, and it worked really well. You know, Deadly, good player. I give him a couple of kills and I'm fine.
That was your job. You give Deadly a couple of kills and you're off. You actually kind of touched on it there, the game plan that you had, where it seemed like it was shove that bot lane wave in, let it bounce, then come down bot and look for the dive. Is that just something that went directly to plan? Did you have that in your mind going in, that that's the way that you were going to play?
Well, it wasn't the initial plan because I didn't expect them to control bot that hard. But it's always something we look for on different timings, right? But we just made the quick decision to go bot on this wave because obviously I get kind of free prio in this matchup. They didn't respect, so you know, I just go down, blow all their summoners, lose a huge wave, and yeah, it was more in the moment, but it's a really good plan and it worked out. So
yeah, I mean, after that, you basically allowed Deadly to take over. I mean, Deadly and Kasing looked very strong, but obviously the whole map played really well. Taxa as well on Graves. Nice to see him on that champion against the European Masters. Obviously, this has been a big move for you coming over from the SLO to the XL roster. What has the move been like? Have you settled in nicely with the roster?
Yeah, I feel like I've settled in pretty nicely. Obviously, I've been playing on the same team for quite some time now, and there's different systems and approaches to the game, so it's been a bit different for me because I have to adjust. I've never been in a situation where I join in with 4 players that were a team before, so I've had to do a lot of getting used to stuff. But you know, they've all been very welcoming, they're easy to work with, very mature, and it just feels really, it feels really easy to work here. So I feel like the transfer has been really nice.
Yeah, and you guys had a great first performance. Just before I let you go, obviously there are 2 European Masters slots up for contention here at the NLC. XL obviously in the running for it once more. You know, they're one of the favorites of this entire league. Which other teams should we be looking out, in your perspective, to really compete for you for those top 2 spots?
Well, I think that doesn't probably come as a surprise, but I think Fnatic are the second best. You know, I have a lot of respect for Magic Felix as a player. You know, he's taught me so much. So I think they'll be a bit tough to beat. But other than that, you have Riddle and Monster Rugby Gaming, who I both think have really solid rosters with good players, like for example Senkuk. So I would say that those are the teams to watch out for. I'm really excited to play against them as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to those matches. Congratulations, Hatrix, for your first win of the NLC. You get to take that title away with you, the first win of the inaugural league here we have in Northern Europe. And thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you very soon, I'm sure. See you soon.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Actually, I was briefly talking to Hatrix beforehand, and you know, I was talking to him about his playstyle change, and he did say, I just feel a bit more unlocked on this roster. Like I can do more with how strong my bot lane was, and how nicely adapted to that, to sort of how Deadly and Kisting took over from almost like minute 2 that game.
Yeah, certainly. It's not that often that you see players going on rosters where they can trust every aspect of it, especially not in the ERLs. Very often you'll have like a very obvious strong point, but like he's saying, it's not necessarily that they're the only team that have this. You can trust most of the players on Fnatic as well, for example, right? So there's a lot of competition around. It's great to see him on a team like this and be able to go around and roam and also adapt to the current meta. He's always been pretty strong on champ pool compared to a lot of other mids, and I hope that this isn't just something that he will be doing on those Galio TF picks. But it's curious that he brings up that the meta's moving in there, because that's actually really relevant to the next game we're going into.
Yeah. We will be diving into our next game of the day, which will be a Riddle going up against Ents. But before that, we have a short break, so we will see you very soon.